Does everything in your life seem more important than getting a good night's sleep? Are you one of those people who say, I'll sleep when I die? In this episode, we'll discuss how to prioritize sleep and some of the sleep solutions.
I'm Dr. Shabnam Daskar. I'm a functional medicine doctor and a certified tiny habits coach. I teach people how to improve their focus, get rid of brain fog, and reduce their risk of dementia down the line.
And I'm Andrea Spyros. I'm a professional speaker and Tiny Habits certified coach. I work with organizations to harness the power of high powered habits to increase engagement, resilience, and well being. So, there are a lot of issues when it comes to sleep, including chronic insomnia and diagnosed sleep disorders. Today, we're not going to be covering those, but we will be covering one of the most common issues we see, which is not prioritizing sleep. And we'll provide some simple solutions for you to try. Shabnam, talk about why prioritizing sleep is important.
So, Andrea, one of the things that I see in my patients is, as you rightly said at the beginning, I will sleep when I die, or, sleep is like self-indulgent. I don't really have the time for it. I have 20,000 things to do. But what a lot of people don't realize is they have anxiety, they have depression. And I'm not talking about, major depressive disorder or any of those, but sort of like, the milder versions, if you will. But what they don't realize is many of those conditions are because they are not sleeping well, because they don't think sleep is important enough. And
Exactly. And it sounds like what you're talking about, the type of anxiety and depression that you're talking about, are that low level that may run through the day, not the chronic anxiety and not the deep, deep depression, but it's just those low ebbs and that something that's running in the background that they may tend to dismiss as being quote unquote normal for them.
yeah. And a lot of young people also experience this, but they don't make the connection that because they're not sleeping well, this is what is happening. And of course, a lot of older people go through that as well. And today, Andrea, as you said at the beginning, we are going to talk about those people who don't prioritize sleep, or who just you don't have chronic insomnia, you don't have a sleep disorder, but you just want to get a good night's sleep. So what are some of the things we can do? And in the medical world, or if you've met any other healthcare provider, you'll be told, okay, these are the sleep hygiene techniques. So sleep hygiene techniques are those which, and Andrea and I are going to talk about quite a few today. Those are simpler things that you can do to help get a better night's sleep. They don't fall under the category of, a treatment like medications, or for sleep disorders and things like that, or CBTI, or the treatments for chronic insomnia, which we will talk about on another episode. So if you are someone who doesn't think sleep is important, one of the first things is, we talked in the previous episode about sleep duration. So getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night, and having a fixed bedtime and fixed wake up time. First question, Andrea, you'll be surprised how many people don't think about this. Number one question is, do you give yourself enough time? Like, you want 7 hours of sleep. Do you give yourself at least 7.5 to 8 hours of time? Or are you like scheduled right up to, late evening, and you wake up early in the morning because of your daily schedule? So number one question is, do you give yourself the opportunity?
And that is so important. I think many people just forget to count backwards, right? To say, oh, I have to get up at 6. And if I want to get 8 hours, that means I have to go to bed at 10. That's just a basic math there
Yeah.
for
And
people. And that can be a game changer, just to realize that you do have a bedtime if you want to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And I think bedtimes aren't for babies, just for babies. They're for adults too. I want to point out too that we do discuss in depth that sleep does affect your three foundations of brain health: your optimal blood glucose level, your optimal blood pressure, and it'll lower, when you get good night's sleep, it'll lower your levels of chronic inflammation. So even employing a few of these can help support your brain to become less foggy and sharper. So once someone's got their recognizes what time they have to go to bed, what other solutions can they implement?
So one important thing, Andrea, I think you and I talked about this. Preparation for a good night's sleep actually starts the previous day. So one of the first things is stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. And again, Andrea and I are both certified tiny habits coaches, so we are never going to say you should do this.
Exactly. If it's what you want to do, if you can get yourself to do it, and if you think it has impact for you, then this is something you can try. And if you're not doing it right now, you can also just start to notice what time you finished eating and what type of sleep you got. So you don't even have to make any changes, just like noticing what time would make you be able to have a full night's sleep and will help you notice better. Noticing what time you stop eating and how good a night's sleep you get can give you some feedback and then support you in any changes that you actually want to make.
Yeah, so stop eating. And actually, here I'd also like to say that stop drinking as well. So when it comes to drinking, what would it be? Alcohol is another big one, which actually not only impacts your sleep in terms of quality, it has a lot of other effects as well. So maybe, Andrea, you and I are going to talk about alcohol and brain health in another episode, and
Yes,
not
sounds
over a
good.
glass of red wine. But so when it comes to drinking, the next thing is, okay, so you find out what it is, whether you can finish your last meal or whatever you have in the evening 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Believe it or not, Andrea, and most of my patients are from India, and in India, dinner time is very late. So
Yes.
many patients found that just making the small change and not even like moving their dinner time 3 to 4 hours, compared to what they were doing before, but even 1 to 2 hours, time shift, number one, gave them better night's sleep. Number two, improved their blood glucose levels quite a bit. And this was like, it didn't involve some major medication. It didn't involve any surgery.
That's amazing result. So even just shifting it 1 to 2 hours gave them better results in terms of their night's sleep and in their measurable blood glucose levels. And it can be, we want to acknowledge too that it can be hard if you live in a culture or society or even your family where they have late night meals. And so you don't have to make it all or nothing. You don't have to stop socializing with your family, but you can make these small shifts and see some positive results.
Yeah, and sometimes I remember one patient said the only time he gets to spend with his family is at the dinner table.
Yeah.
So I said, so you get home late, and obviously you're going to eat at that time. So can you make some simple change, like you carry an extra meal with you to work? Because in some places like Mumbai, people don't get home in time for an early meal. So I said, you
Right.
can have your meal in the office, and when you come back home, don't stop your, time with your kids. If that is one, you can't ask your kids to change their bedtime and food time. First start fixing yourself, then you
Yeah.
focus on them. Then why don't you enjoy like a cup of some herbal tea or something with them? I said, don't stop the practice of that time with your kids just because you're going to eat earlier, So many
Right.
different ways to, address that problem. The next important thing I wanted to talk about is caffeine. So, caffeine, because all of us, most of us, not everybody, loves to wake up to a cup of coffee or tea. Now, tea definitely contains a lot less caffeine than coffee, but some of the surprising things that do contain caffeine are things like chocolate, pain meds, diet drinks and cold remedies, energy drinks. And sometimes people don't realize that drinking those are getting in the way of their sleep. So, Andrea, you were talking about a friend and chocolate.
I did. I recently had brunch with a friend, and he said that when he has chocolate in the afternoon, it can keep him up all night. And he did a little bit of an experiment, and he would have different types of chocolate, and he found that not all chocolate caused him to stay awake, and he couldn't find any one thread throughout all of the chocolate, so that he could not be certain having chocolate in the evening wouldn't affect him. And because he prioritized sleep, he just made it a policy for himself that he just didn't have any chocolate in the late afternoon. So, he could have it at lunch, but he just eliminated it because sleep was so important. I mean, it would literally keep him up all night long.
Yeah, and very often we don't think of, chocolate containing caffeine, right? We think,
Right.
oh, caffeine is just tea and coffee. So
And
important thing about caffeine is caffeine counters the effects of another chemical called adenosine, and I'll talk about adenosine in the episode on chronic insomnia. So caffeine can counter the effects of adenosine, which is your sleep chemical. But caffeine has a long half-life. So what does a half-life mean? It means when you drink caffeine, it reduces to half its amount in your blood in about 4 to 5 hours. Now, that is very important to remember because and again, it is different things for different people. Some people may be fast metabolizers, so they can, take away the caffeine from their blood much earlier. Some people take much longer. It is possible, Andrea, your friend is a slow caffeine metabolizer.
right.
So, drinking a caffeinated drink may, late in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, may not be a good idea if you want to improve your sleep. And again, like I keep saying, caffeine is not a problem for everyone. But instead of, having a coffee at 3 p.m., maybe you want to switch to a herbal, non-caffeinated or a lower caffeine containing drink and see how it goes. Again, there is no one rule for everyone.
And that is the thing. I think that so many people have been prescribed like these are absolutes, when really the human body is very unique. So we want you to be matched with something that's right for you. We're going to give you some broad ideas and some simple solutions that you can try, and then you're going to test them with yourself to see the benefit. And you can see, like, what if switching to an herbal tea instead of coffee or some other form of low caffeine in the afternoon got you a better night's sleep? How powerful could that be?
Yeah, and this is where I want to talk. I feel I should talk about, so when I was going through my sleep challenges, and I'll talk about that in the chronic insomnia episode. So people would talk about, oh, chamomile tea. And I thought, okay, let me try chamomile tea. And Andrea, I hate the taste of chamomile tea. If you
Don't-
don't like the taste of something, that is not for you.
Exactly. And that is a really, there's so many other ways that you can change. We're not asking you to do something that you hate, because there are many paths to get here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So going on with our morning routine, the other thing is, getting morning light falling on your eyes. And on the other episode of sleep, we talked about your circadian rhythm and your body's biological clock. So if it is an option for you, and I am in Alberta in Canada, and it's really cold now. So obviously I am not someone who's going to brave the cold minus 20 degrees and go out on the deck or anything like that. But at least if you can get some daylight on falling on your eyes in the morning, because that would start the master clock in the brain. And again, figure out what works for you. But this is like getting light on your eyes without dark glasses or anything, and that would start the clock in the brain. Another important thing is morning exercise. So, Andrea, are you a morning exercise person or an evening exercise person?
I am a morning exercise person. And if something disrupts my schedule and I don't get my morning exercise, I find it very hard to fit it in for me. And it does affect my mood. Even just a short 15, 20-minute walk helps me feel better and have more energy during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does morning exercise? And again, like both Andrea and I always talk about, there's no one rule for everyone. But if you are thinking, whether I should exercise in the morning or afternoon or evening, Morning exercise, one of the other important things it does is it changes your body temperature. So this is the core body temperature. And in a normal person who gets good sleep, the temperature is supposed to rise in the morning and fall in the evening. So many people with chronic insomnia, this is a challenge. So morning exercise will raise your core body temperature, which will help it to hopefully fall in the evening, and that can help your sleep much better. And again, if the only time you find to exercise is late afternoon or evening, then maybe this is not the thing for you, because exercise is one of the most important things you can do for your brain. But if you find that going to the gym just after you finish your work, and then you come home and then you realize that you're not getting good sleep, maybe try switching around and see what happens. And in the exercise episode, we'll talk about many other ways of adding exercise to your day. So there is again no one rule, but morning exercise and temperature is something that I just wanted to highlight, because people sometimes don't think of temperature when it comes to sleep, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, and then maybe this is a good time to talk about, because I know temperature and sleep is important even in the nighttime. Maybe we should start talking about a nighttime routine for once you've started with your morning light and your morning exercise, stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Maybe you've limited your caffeine. Um, what about a nighttime routine?
Oh, that's an excellent point, Andrea. And in fact, one of my colleagues talks about, your book ends. How you begin and end your day decides actually everything about your day, and particularly about your sleep. So nighttime routine, find out what works best for you. One of the things when we talked about the temperature, so room temperature of about 18 to 19 degrees centigrade, and Andrea, that's about, I think, 64 to 66-degree Fahrenheit. Am I
Yeah,
right?
I think that's 64 to 66 Fahrenheit.
I wish the whole world followed the same units. So 18 to 19 degrees centigrade is kind of cold. It's not usually the temperature at which most people keep their thermostat. So set up a routine to bring the temperature down. Now, if you're someone like me who finds that setting the temperature so low makes my feet cold, the other thing you can do is add a hot water bag so that your feet are not cold, or you can wear socks, but the room temperature is colder. Another way to reduce and again, this goes back to the core temperature I talked about. If the core temperature does not fall at night, you won't get good night's sleep. Another way to reduce the temperature is using one of these mattress coolers. So you get to buy them. So this is like there is a little device which sends, there's sort of like a mattress topper, and there is a tube which contains cold water going through it. And you actually get single ones as well. So if your partner is not somebody, you sleep with your partner or, spouse, and they don't enjoy a cold bed. My
You
husband
can just
doesn't
get
like
it
a
for your
cold
side.
bed. Yeah, so you can have it just for your own your side only. So that is another way of reducing. And Andrea, so many times I've told myself, my God, to get a good night's sleep, why do I need so many, so many stuff? Why do I need a mattress cooler as well? So let me switch off the mattress cooler and see whether. And I found that I don't get a good night's sleep. Like, I've woken up all sweaty and hot, and I don't even have hot flashes. So this is again to do with my temperature.
And it's important to know. So, even you have done a little experiment for yourself where you thought, okay, maybe this isn't working, and tried it, and you realize that it actually is integral to your sleep. And if you're listening out there, you may not need a lot of things. You may need just one or two of these. You may find that just getting morning light helps you sleep at night. You might find that just getting a little more exercise helps you sleep better at night. So there's a few ins. You don't have to do all of these things. Just pick the ones that appeal to you first and that are the easiest for you first, and then see what happens. I know you've shared on the previous podcast that you found there was an optimal number of steps for you to get in where you actually slept better. And
Oh
so if
yeah.
you're listening out there, you can do a little experiment for yourself and you'll know which are the most important things for you. So that's cold at night and then dark at night too.
Oh yeah. We talk about, you should think of a hibernating bear when you think of your sleep. So a cold, dark cave. Now, how do you make your room dark? Obviously, if if you're at home, you can get those darkening curtains. But one of the things, and I was cursing myself. I said, why didn't I think of this before? So while traveling, recently I started using an eye sleep mask and earplugs. So what I found is this was some Airbnb place we had gone to, and the blinds didn't work so well, so the room was like brighter than I would have liked it to be. So I got a sleep mask and earplugs are like cheap solutions for something like that. And I thought, why didn't I think of this before? Make sure you have the sleep mask and earplugs in your travel kit. And if you need extra ones, keep them handy so that you are not your good night's sleep is not affected just because you don't have like a sleep mask. And get
Exactly.
one which you can pinch on your nose. So you get a lot of them in Amazon, which you can pinch on your nose so that you don't get the light creeping in from below.
All good advice. A lot of people are talking about taking a shower before bed. What's your recommendation on that?
Oh yeah, if that is something you enjoy, obviously that is something you can try, because again it goes back. I seem to be going back to temperature all the time.
Temperature is important. I mean, I think that people listening are understanding like the temperature is important here.
Yeah, so uh, that shower at bedtime, and not doesn't have to be a cold shower. It's a regular, whatever temperature you're comfortable with. uh, sh- at night, at nearer to bedtime, helps again reduce the core body temperature. So that is again something you might want to do, and depends on what works best for you. So that's again one more idea. One more thing, and Andrea, in the tiny habits world, we talk a lot about devices, charging devices in your bed.
Exactly. Screens, all forms of screens too.
Yeah, in fact, BJ has this thing on reducing screen time. But anyway, we are digressing. So when we talk about screen time, what do we mean? What happens is the ambient light. See, if you think back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, the only light they had was from the fire that they built. They didn't have all these bright street lights and lights at home, and they didn't have all these rectangular devices that we have in our life. So this ambient light, as we talked about our circadian rhythm, so that impacts our circadian rhythm. So in the evening, normally sorry, again I go back to temperature. In the evening, light levels are it's supposed to get darker in the evenings. But what happens now is, because of all this ambient light, it's no longer as dark. We have to make a deliberate effort. Some people find those blue light blocking glasses, and Andrea, I don't think I'm going to ever use them. Have you seen how yellow and horrible they look?
A lot of them are, and then I've seen some clear ones, and I don't want everything to look yellow. Some people I know have had great results, and they really notice a difference when they put blue light blockers after they turn on lights in the evening. And then other people I know just haven't seen any effect. But I definitely relate to you with I don't want those yellowy things.
Yeah. So actually, you do get blue light blocking glasses with your regular glasses. So for your computer, you may want to have a blue light blocking glass, whereas for other things you can have your regular glasses. That is one. And I think lighting in homes, it's really going through a lot of change. You have the ability to tone down your lights. Then even on your laptops, let us say you're someone who needs to work in the evening, just because it might impact your sleep, that doesn't mean you can stop working. So
Right.
there
And
are
people work
some.
on global hours. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
work on global hours. So it might be in the morning for some of your clients or customers.
Yeah, so most devices, including your smartphones, have this settings where you can change it to a night mode.
Or
So that
dark
is
mode
one.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, dark mode. So you can do that, and that is like a one-time action. Uh, the other important thing is not to have no TV in the bedroom. And as I usually say, that the bedroom should be only for sleeping and intimacy and nothing else. No charging devices. Now, when I talk about no charging devices next to your head, make sure that you have some way of, if you have loved ones, or Andrea, you have your mother you take care of. So
Exactly.
your family, those who need to contact you in an emergency, they should have a way to reach out to you, because very often you'll find people say, "Oh, you need to put your phone in the airplane mode at night." Yeah, what happens if there's an emergency, and a person cannot reach you because your phone is in airplane mode? One option is, this is what I used to use a long time ago, was have two phones. Most of us have a second handset lying around in the house very often. So you could have a second handset which has a number which is shared, with only a few people, those who need to reach you in an emergency. Everyone doesn't need to reach you all the time.
Right.
That is one option. You can have a second handset, which again, don't keep it next to your ear, but keep it in the bedroom where you can hear it, but it's not going to interfere with your sleep. And have your main phone, charge it outside your bedroom. That is very important. And actually, Andrea, Jennifer uses that. So Jennifer is our colleague and our friend and fellow Tiny Habits coach. She talks about having the phone charging and the alarm going in that outside her room, so that she can wake up on time.
I've had a lot of people share that they put their phone in another room charging, just so that when the alarm goes off, they do need to get up to get it. And that works for many people, and it solves two problems with one solution.
Yeah. And if the other important question is, if you need an alarm to wake up in the morning, maybe you need to again go back and review. Do you give yourself enough time to sleep? And nowadays, there are a lot of these wearable devices which have like the silent alarm. You don't wake up anyone else in the house. You just wake yourself up in the right sleep stage. And I found that helped me a lot. And another strategy, Andrea, we talked about is, I call myself a belt come suspender. So if I
Yep.
know I have a meeting in the morning, which I definitely don't want to get late for, and I don't like rushing in the morning at all. So I set an alarm, usually, let us say, 15 minutes after the time when I know that if I don't wake up at that time, I'll be like really late and rushed. So that is sort of like a second, my belt come suspender alarm. And I
Exactly. And I know too, many people who have bought great one-time behavior is to buy an old-time alarm clock, and you put that as your backup alarm or even your primary alarm. But I think what we've seen with a lot of people we talk to is that once you apply some of these sleep solutions, your body begins to regulate and you don't need the alarm as much. You may be waking up and you may still have the alarm, just like Shabnam, for your belt and suspenders to make sure, but you'll probably be turning that off before it even starts. So last thoughts on solutions for better sleep hygiene.
Oh, we talked about a lot actually. And Andrea, I'll let you summarize because you do it so well.
So today, we gave you a lot of solutions for prioritizing sleep. We remind you that good sleep starts the day before. We want you to get some morning light, some morning exercise. See if you can stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Avoid the sleep stealers, many of which contain caffeine or alcohol, even chocolate. Double check your pain meds, energy drinks, diet and cold remedies. If you've been having those, just pay attention. And then develop a nighttime routine. It doesn't have to be long. It could just be as simple as turning out the lights in your house or dimming the lights in your home or bedroom, turning down the bed, brushing your teeth, and then getting into it, but making it really simple and nourishing for you. Then we'd love it if you would look at your ambient screen use, no charging devices by the bed, and sleep in a cold, dark room. You can have curtains, an eye mask, and even a cooling mattress cover if that supports you. And again, we're Tiny Habits certified coaches, so we don't need you to do all these. In fact, we don't need you to do anything. Here's what we want. We want you to pick the things that you want to do, that you think will be impactful to getting a better night's sleep, and that you think you can get yourself to do. And we will have a Tiny Habit recipe sheet of Tiny Habit recipes for better sleep in the show notes. We thank you for listening. We thank you for sharing, rating, and review this. Check out the show notes for more details, and you can also see them at drkarmd.com/podcast. That's drkarmd.com/podcast. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, everyone. Bye now.